What happens when a regional war begins to threaten nearly 20% of the world's oil supply and pulls global powers closer to direct confrontation? The Iran-Israel conflict has now entered one of its most dangerous phases yet. On day 23 of the war, tensions escalated sharply as Iran launched missile strikes targeting southern Israel, bringing the conflict dangerously close to sensitive nuclear infrastructure. Late Saturday night, missiles struck the cities of Dimona and Arad, both located near Israel's primary nuclear research facility, according to Israeli officials. Around 180 people were injured, some critically. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the moment as a very difficult evening, as emergency services responded to widespread damage and chaos. Despite Israel's advanced air defense systems, several missiles managed to penetrate defenses, leaving behind large craters and destroyed buildings. However, the International Atomic Energy Agency stated it has received no indication of damage to the nuclear research facility. Still, its leadership warned that military activity near nuclear sites poses serious global risks and called for maximum restraint. Iran described the strikes as retaliation for Israel's earlier attack on its nuclear facility in Natanz, signaling a clear escalation in the cycle of attacks. Iranian officials also issued a broader warning. If their infrastructure is targeted, vital sites across the Gulf region could become legitimate targets, raising fears
Iranian
that the
officials
conflict
also
could
issued a
expand far
broader
beyond
warning.
its current boundaries.
If their infrastructure
At
is
the same
targeted,
time, former
vital
U.S.
sites
President
across
Donald
the
Trump
Gulf
issued a
region
stark
could become
ultimatum,
legitimate
giving Iran
targets.
48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
This raises fears
He
that the
warned that
conflict
failure
could
to comply
expand
could
far
result in
beyond.
direct strikes on Iran's power infrastructure. This warning carries enormous global significance, as nearly one-fifth of the world's oil supply passes through this critical waterway. With tanker traffic already disrupted and oil prices rising, the economic consequences are being felt worldwide. The conflict's impact is spreading rapidly across the region. Saudi Arabia reported intercepting Iranian missiles, while the United Arab Emirates responded to drone and missile threats. Gulf nations have begun expelling Iranian diplomats, and regional leaders are warning that continued escalation could force broader military involvement. Meanwhile, Israeli and U.S. forces continue their strikes on Iranian targets. U.S. officials claim that over 8,000 military targets have been hit so far, including naval assets, marking one of the most intense military campaigns in recent history. Inside Iran, reports indicate that more than 1,300 civilians have been killed since the conflict began. The humanitarian situation continues to worsen, with widespread internet blackouts limiting access to information for millions of civilians. Global powers are now stepping in with increasing urgency. The G7 nations, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan, have called for the protection of critical maritime routes and stability in global energy markets. Japan has even suggested deploying demining experts to the Strait of Hormuz if a ceasefire is reached, highlighting the growing international concern. As tensions rise, military operations intensify, and diplomatic efforts struggle to gain traction, the risk of a wider regional or even global conflict is becoming more real. The coming hours and days could prove decisive in determining whether this crisis escalates further or begins to de-escalate.